everyone, and welcome to Channel 18 TV News. I'm Don Julian. In the news, a special send-off is planned on Thursday at 11:30 a.m. at the Hopkins County Courthouse for 4 area veterans departing on an honor flight from DFW Airport to Washington, D.C. to see veterans' memorials and to participate in special events. Taking that flight are Vietnam Army veterans Jerry Hanna and Rick Flannery of Sulphur Springs and Marvin Cherney of Mineola, as well as Korean Air Force veteran Earl Stubblefield of Bogota. The flight will depart DFW Airport Friday morning and will return from Washington, D.C. on Saturday night. Hopkins County United Way Fund Drive is now at 71.3% of its goal after a Tuesday report meeting. A total of $46,274.09 was added to the total this week. Through 5 weeks of the campaign, a total of $117,640.35 has been collected toward the goal of $165,000. Campaign co-chair Bill Owens called the numbers wonderful. United Way funds support 20 local groups.
You were invited to better get to know these Hopkins County historical figures on Sunday, November 3rd during a cemetery walk at Sulphur Springs City Cemetery between 2 and 4 p.m. But right now, let's have a preview.
I don't know if I would call her Mrs. Colonel or not, but she was the wife of Colonel Benjamin Maddox Camp. Fanny Camp is here.
Yes, and we're very happy to be with you today.
And also, we have another widow. I guess maybe all of them were widows, but widow Belle Pierce.
Hello.
Hi, another of our historical figures in Hopkins County. And then we have Mrs. Fanny Thornton.
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay. You all contributed to Hopkins County in some way during your lives. And so that's the stories that we want to find out this morning, and the fuller story on Sunday, November 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Who will start off to talk about themselves?
I can.
Okay, please do, Belle Pierce.
Well, I'm the widow of J.K. Pierce, and he was a cattle baron here. And at one time here in Hopkins County, I was the largest landowner. And my last home still stands on North Davis Street.
Really? In the 400 block of North Davis Street?
Yes, 409.
I would love to see that myself sometime. So your husband was a cattle baron, but was he always? Did he become that when he got to Hopkins County?
Yes.
Okay. What else interesting about yourself would you tell us?
When I was little, I was really afraid of Indians when we traveled coming here in wagons.
Okay. Where did you?
It was pulled by oxen.
Okay.
They would travel 2 miles every hour. It would
2
take
miles per hour.
all day to travel 10 miles.
And you came here from where?
Kentucky.
So it was a long time getting to Texas,
Was.
and then Hopkins County, Texas.
My parents brought us to Birthright,
Okay.
where my father owned a flour mill.
A flour mill. Such an interesting history. This is a form of history gathering that I don't think we've ever done before here on the radio.
I've never heard anyone talk about it down at the cemetery. Have you, girls?
No, but when we come, we're there, and people just don't pay attention to the people that are in the cemetery. If they will go, every single headstone has a story to tell.
So true, dear.
And if you'll come out Sunday, we will tell you some of the stories. This is something we've done for several years. It's just we don't usually get an audience.
Well, everybody needs an audience.
Yes.
And I would say you ladies deserve an audience.
Well, there's more people. There's going to be more women and men out there that's going to be telling their stories, too.
Okay.
You never know who might show up.
Well, I want to talk to you. You're another Fanny. We have two Fannies this morning.
We have two Fannies. I'm actually Sarah Frances Martin. My mother and father were born in Georgia, and I was raised in Georgia. And my colonel was raised in Georgia, and I actually met the colonel in Georgia. And he was a fine young man. He joined the war between the states. Now, he doesn't like to talk about that war, but in 1867 we got married, and that's when we came to Hopkins County. Now, we have a little spread just down the road. It covered 500 acres, and I would love to tell you about the time I couldn't come to town for 4 years from all the gossip. But if you come down on that Sunday, I'll tell you why I couldn't come to town.
Hi, I've got to know that story.
Well, come and see me and I'll tell you.
You'll give me the tour.
I'll give you the tour. Well, we have tour guides, I believe, don't we, girls?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and you'll get to come and meet the colonel. Okay. The colonel will be there as well. And I actually died before my husband. He lived to be 98 years old.
Really?
Yes. Well, you know, there was a newspaper man that came out and interviewed him, and he said he was 60, and the man said he had the body of a 30-year-old, and I can attest to that.
Maybe he was pickled.
I never thought of that.
Okay, ladies, this is getting more and more fun. What else will you tell us about Miss Thornton?
Well, I was actually the first factory owner here in Hopkins County in Sulphur Springs. When I moved here with my husband in 1894, our first home was on Bill Bradford Road. But back then it was just prairie. It was definitely not. And I want you to know I'm the youngest of these women. I've only been dead 75 years.
She sure likes to brag about that.
Yes, I am. And I really did a lot. I had patent. I made bonnets.
Show us that bonnet that you
Well,
had.
you see, I got a patent for a bonnet because I'm the first. I had a patent because you could actually wash this with a stiffening in and a drawstring across the back so you could take it out and lay it flat.
Okay. Let me see that. And so tell about where you got fabric and all here to do this.
When I first started, I got fabric from Mississippi, stored that was on the square. But in my time, I bought fabric from Ed I. Palmer, one of the older ones, not the one that some of you may know.
Okay. And
one year I purchased $5,000 in fabric wholesale. I sold all over the United States.
She traveled all over the United States, too.
I certainly did.
Who did all this construction work?
I actually employed mostly widows and orphans in the beginning until my factory moved about 4 times until it got so large that I had to employ women that just simply needed to add money to their income.
Where was this factory located?
Well, it started out on the square, and then it was on Main Street for a while. Finally, it ended up, I own land that went from Gilmer to Davis, and I ended up buying building a factory on the back of my land.
Okay. A landmark of today?
My house would have been about where Murray or Wasky Funeral Home is.
Seems like your house had a beautiful title or name.
It was known as the House of Seven Gables because that's just what it was, because I ordered the kit, and it came in on the railroad. And my house was built in 1907. Wasn't yours built much earlier than that?
Yes.
Much earlier.
Tell me, Miss Thornton, when did you pass away?
I didn't. 1944.
Okay. You're almost a contemporary.
Yes, I am.
What about you, Mrs. Pierce?
It was 1937. I got to be 87 years old.
Okay. And what about you, Mrs. Camp?
Well, I died in 1928.
I have some other notes here that I just cannot lay my hands on. Okay.
You know, there's going to be several of us there. it's not just our stories. Are there 10?
There's 8 of us.
8 of us.
Okay.
Some men, some women. You can learn a lot of history in a fun way.
I would say it almost just opens up your awareness, or maybe your interest in history. A much fuller knowledge can be obtained right here in Hopkins County.
Yeah, you drive down the street and you see a house and you know the history behind it. You know who built it, a little bit about their life, and it makes living here a lot more interesting.
Did you know that Colonel Camp was elected to the 34th legislative from Sulphur Springs?
Really?
He served on many committees, especially Finance Committee and the Cotton Committee, and then he had to help with the Sheep Committee. Being agriculturally, before he married me, he went to college to learn agriculture and engineering. And when he arrived here in Sulphur Springs, he will tell you his story, how he taught the farmers how to diversify their land and how not to lose all their money just on one crop. And he's going to also tell you about what it means to rotate your crops. So you're going to find quite a bit. Not only did he represent the whole town, he helped the whole town. I'm afraid all I ever did was entertain. And if you'll come, you'll get to hear all my stories about entertaining.
Like teas and dinners and luncheons and things?
I think she entertained really well.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I've been known for my entertaining.
Okay.
But the Colonel built a lake. It took him 4 years to dig this lake. Now, the town gossiped about it, and you'll hear more about that later. But as my husband says, if you build it, they will come. You see, I was lonely out there on that 500 acres, and so once the lake went in, beginning in March, people from all over town would start coming out to the lake to camp and fish, and the young men brought their fiddles and their guitars. So, some of you girls have been out there at lake camp.
Yes, but we were careful with our company.
Oh, okay.
Yes, well, I entertain, dear.
Okay. Thank you for enlightening me, dear. Now, Widow Belle Pierce, again, tell me, when did you pass away?
1937.
Okay. 1937, 1928, 1944.
Right during World War II.
Okay. You ladies are people we need to know more about, since we live here. And you had homes here and have made your livelihood here, and you're part of our history.
You're actually going to meet Mrs. Bass. And I don't know if you know who Mrs. Bass was, but she helped with the orphan train. And she's got a great story to tell.
How can we meet you and these people? I mean, specifics on that.
Well, if you will come Sunday out to the city cemetery, the tickets are $10. It helps fundraising.
Okay.
We're part of the Genealogy Society. Somebody has to dig us up, so to speak. And if you'll come out there 2 to 4, there will be a guide that will take you through the cemetery.
Okay.
And you'll hear lots of wonderful stories.
Wonderful. Well, I can't wait, and I'll want to be there. We have some rain today, but things are going to straighten out and look beautiful in the next few days, and so I'm going to invite the whole public that listens to this radio station to go out there.
We would love to see every one of them.
Just meet at the Myra Wilson Chapel at City Cemetery.
And if you haven't been to the Myra Wilson Chapel, that is another beautiful spot in Hopkins County.
And if you don't know where the cemetery is, just ask someone. They'll help you get there.
It's actually located on 7th Street, I believe.
Okay. And we all need to know about that and the part it plays in our local history.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ladies, very much for coming in this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Fanny Camp, or Mrs. Colonel Benjamin Maddox Camp, and the widow Belle Pierce, and Mrs. Fanny Thornton.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming today.
Appreciate it.
In sports, Wildcats football coach Greg Owens had his weekly media gathering on Wednesday morning, and he talked about the Kaufman Lions and his Wildcats who play this Friday at Kaufman's Lions Stadium.
Well, I mean, it's no different than Coach Burleson, who used to coach here. Jeremy Burleson does a great job with those guys. So they're just technically sound, fundamentally sound. They lost their starting quarterback, I think, back in one of the early scrimmages and tore an ACL up. And he was really the guy that made it all go. So they've been trying to search and find a quarterback. So they rotated 2 or 3 of those guys in there and trying to settle on that. So I also kind of see him. He has a team that maybe is trying to rebuild, reload. Pretty young. I mean, I say that he's still starting 6 seniors on offense, 6 seniors on defense. But overall, they're playing quite a few young kiddos too, and he's got a lot of sophomores up and a lot of first-year guys to the varsity level. So we can pretty much understand what he's dealing with right there and trying to get some experience for those guys.
I remember the big fullback, actually a middle linebacker, and they used him some on offense last year and now got him in quarterback. What's it like to tackle a guy 6'4" and 250?
Yeah, he's a big old kid. I mean, we saw that not too long ago against Ennis. So those big old boys you run out there. So those guys are thick. He's not quite the athlete that guy from Ennis is, but he does a good job of kind of managing what they want to do and throwing the ball around a little bit, and has a lot of savvy. And so we've got to get into him early, not let him build up any momentum. So, the plan is to get in the backfield and get in his legs and not let him start leaning on you too much.
He throw the ball pretty good.
He's okay. I mean, he's just not a prolific thrower. I wouldn't call him that, but he knows what he's doing. He looks like a kid who probably has played a little baseball to me also and understands, has a lot of savvy about him, seems to have composure. He just doesn't throw it up for grabs. Kind of knows what he's going to do with the ball, I think, and understands that. Not too lively of an arm, but I mean, one that's effective enough to make you pay. They want to run first. Again, very complimentary of their offensive line from last year. Their offensive line coach did a great job. No different than this year. Those guys know where they're going, do a great job of it. They got kids that are playing on offense and flip over and play on the D-line as well. So I think they're starting 4 seniors on the defensive line. And those guys do a really good, nice job inside, and they kind of junk it up in there for you. Some of the stuff we kind of saw a little bit last week against Greenville inside, they just try to make it hard for you in there, and they'll jump in and out of fronts. I mean, they'll be in a 4-man, they'll jump to a 3. So those things, our linemen have to make certain checks as that changes your blocking scheme. So just to try to confuse you a little bit, maybe get penetration and cause you to have a negative play.
Had awfully good skill players last year. Did they lose them all, or?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, these guys aren't the caliber those guys are last year. And so, yeah, they're struggling a little bit with some of those. But I've been impressed with the number 4 at corner, and he's also a kiddo that's kind of moved in and played some quarterback for them too. So he's one of the better athletes, and he kind of moves around. They like to get him the ball quite a bit when they can, and defensively he's pretty physical. He'll come up from the corner spot. Big, tall kid. We're guessing at their height. We don't have their height and weight, but he looks like he's about 6'1", but a good-looking kiddo. And he's been the most impressive guy in the back end for him.
Defense, their line, kind of their main characteristic.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, those guys, they just make it hard on you. They try to dictate where you're going to run the ball. So they're going to try to make you spill everything. And so they'll line up and line up in the 5 and jump inside of the 4-eye and just go and try to make you force everything to go wide and just be tough. They're just good old hard-nosed guys that get in there and get after you.
Is Wallace game time decision, you think?
Yeah. He's getting some mental reps right now, so we'll just see how that goes, and hopefully he'll be ready.
All right.
Anybody really stand out besides 4 on the team coach as far as some of their?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just those guys, the offensive, defensive linemen, those guys have just kind of impressed me. They're just tough. I mean, they're just tough high school football players, and just kind of across the board with those guys. So I mean, we've done a really great job this year of defense, especially the front guys, just kind of getting in there and making plays. I bragged on Cameron Crawford this last week. He got that cast off his hand, and he's like a new player almost. I mean, he was playing pretty good, but just last week it was like he was just freed up, be able to use both hands and get off people, and he creates a lot of headache in there for them. So all of our front guys have got to do that. Him and DeAndre have really been done a nice peoples. Have done a nice job of doing that all year for us, and those guys have to continue to do that. And linebackers are really, and especially interior guys, have really been plugging and playing hard. Been outmatched every week and done a great job with it. So those guys have to control the front. We got to stop the run. we got to force them to throw the football. So we got to try to make them one-dimensional. So we do that. We think we're going to be all right. So, but it all comes with those interior guys that just sucking it up and being tough and not letting this big quarterback fall for forward for yardage. So do that. I think we'll be in good shape.
You said the attitudes have been good. Not really a letdown for us.
No, I mean, they're disappointed.
The playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they're disappointed, but I mean, it's another week. We've sold it. It's another week to go compete. You get to go compete again, and here we go. So that's what we see from these guys: an opportunity to go win a ball game and to get better. So they've done a good job of doing that this week.
Have you talked to Jeremy any about how you're kind of similar as far as records and everything go, and how this is?
No, just know he struggled with some stuff too, just from learning stuff and injuries. So we understand all those things and. No, we don't really discuss all that.
You talked earlier, I think it was on the coach's show, that this is a game really for you're playing really for pride and how to and
just opportunity to play and to get better. Yeah, I mean, just you finish what you start. Our message was for them on Monday. You started this thing, let's finish the thing, finish it right. So. Some of these kids young kids are working to get better and we're working to finish on a winning streak. Get after it. We have an opportunity to go and do that. So these young kids are working to get reps and get better, and the seniors looking to go out with wins. Some of those guys still have aspirations of going to playing in college, so they're still trying to put good plays on tape and all that stuff. So, we're disappointed and let down and all that stuff, but I think they're really kind of getting over that and opportunity to get out here and play. So I'm not seeing any lull. I don't know what the coordinators would tell you either, but I'm not seeing any lull from the kiddos this week. Again, except a little bit on Monday, but most part, no, they're back to their old selves, and here we go, and how do we get better? And I think some of that's both sides keep tweaking some things, and how we're going to adjust to different fronts and those things defensively, and they have to be locked in mentally. Then offensively, always putting on a different formation or adding something just a little bit new, so they have to know that. And the tempo thing, they don't have time to sit around and think about anything. It's fast paced. So I think we did a good job of that this week and this year of just moving forward and getting that done.
The Lady Cats volleyball team was upset by Texas High 3-2 Tuesday night in the main gym at Sulphur Springs High School on senior night. The loss dropped the Lady Cats into fourth place in the district standings. The Lady Cats will now be playing Hallsville, the district champ of District 16 5A, in a bi-district playoff match next week. The Lady Cats will play Paris in a warm-up game Friday at 4:30 p.m. in the main gym at Sulphur Springs High School. After that Texas High match Tuesday night, I talked with Lady Cats volleyball coach Bailey Dorner.
So Sadie Washburn led the team with 20 kills. Behind her was Sister Sydney with 10, and then Erica Van Bentham with 9, and Brooklyn Burnside with 8. Paris Pickett led the team with 18 digs. Peyton Hammock had 50 assists.
50?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
50.
That's a pretty high number.
I think that's the highest probably in a game that we've had, just off the top of my head.
Yeah, that impresses me. That figure just kind of jumps out at you. What are your thoughts on this one? A hard fought, it goes into 5 sets, and we just didn't have a lot left in that 5th set, looked like.
Yeah, it's a tough loss. I feel like we really should have finished it in 3. We goofed around that second game, the same thing in 4th game. Texas High is a very, very athletic team, and they've got some girls that hit around our block, hit over our block, and just creamed it. But we just kept feeding them free balls, and of course they're going to use those and set those big girls who can put it down, and so that really hurt us. We just sent over too many easy balls for them.
Yeah, it just seemed like the errors just leaped out at us in that 5th set. Just a lot of mistakes.
Errors were all over the place. We did a good job serve receive. I think tonight we did well passing the ball, but we didn't cover well. Or even if we did cover, we weren't ready for the ball. We missed some key blocks. Blockers just reading it late and not getting there in time. People not where they're supposed to be. So just little things like that. We hurt ourselves.
Do we know anything about Royce City? Have we heard anything from them yet?
I have not heard yet, but they were playing at Mount Pleasant tonight, so I'm not really sure.
Oh, okay. And so it's either going to be White House or Hallsville, I guess, depending on where we end up and how they end up.
Right. I think if we finish 4th, we'll get Hallsville, and if we finish 3rd, we will get White House. But they also had a game tonight, and so things could change on their side too.
All right. And now you've set up Paris as hopefully a team to kind of maybe kind of forget this one a little bit. I mean, you got to remember the mistakes and stuff, but you want to kind of try to put it out of your mind a little bit and try to, see if Paris can get us ready.
Yep, you got to learn from them and be better. First time we played Paris, we won in 5 over there. It was a tough match, went back and forth, and they're a scrappy team. And since then, they have been on a roll. They've been hot and rolling, so I think it'll be a good game on Friday for us.
All right, and are you looking forward to your first playoff game as a coach?
I'm excited. We've been in them softball, but I think it's a little bit different for me, now as the head coach, so I'm excited about it.
The Lady Cats cross-country team finished 17th, and the Wildcats were 18th at the Region 2 Class 5A Championship at the Jesse Owens Sports Complex in Dallas on Monday. SSHS cross-country coach Ross Hicks has more details for us.
It was a good day. We were a little concerned about the weather and the course getting a little sloppy, but it turned out to be a perfect racing day with great temperatures, and so it really set up for a lot of very fast times. And so then the first time we went there when it was in the 90s, and so everyone was minutes faster on the same course than they were the first time. So the girls raced first, and they finished 17th out of 24, which is 2 spots better than last year. So our senior Sydney Washburn has been leading us really the last 3 years since she was a sophomore, and we talked about it before the race, and she was going for it, to be in that group of usually top 17 to 20 that will make it to state, and she went for it. She started out the first 3/4 of a mile when I saw her in 13th place, and from there, I don't know if she had a little bit of a stomach bug, and it just really hit her after that, and she fell back a little bit, but she went for it, and so I was proud that she did. So we were actually ended up being led by a couple of freshmen, Maddie Bridges, who has trained with the top group all year, and just finally was able to put it all together and led the team with a great time, and she led our team, and then not too far behind her was Lainey Hurst, our second freshman, and then we had a couple of juniors follow up who have really stepped up and ran. I mean, they were all within a minute of each other from Maddie, and then we had Laney, and then third was Mari Flecker, who was about 40 seconds behind Maddie, and then right behind her was another junior, Kenya Herrera, who ran great, and then Sydney was right with right behind Kenya. So we had a really tight group, 1 through 5. And so a lot of those obviously are returning for next year. They were all in the 21 to about 22 minutes, which are some of their best times for a 5K. That Mount Pleasant's a little short, but they even ran faster at this course than they did there, even though this was a true 5K. So I was very excited to see that, and to see our best times really coming at the end of the year. We also had Michaela Jimerson, who wasn't far behind that group either. She's a freshman, a lot of potential there, and then another senior, Ashley Noe, who ran her personal best on a true 5K to end her Wildcat Lady Cat career. So that was good to see. We finished as a team a couple spots better. So it's good to see that youth, and that what the seniors did a great job of just passing on the work ethic, the tradition of the program, and I think we will reap the benefits of that in the coming years, even as we move forward. So on the boys' side, we were again led by our senior, Christian Palomino, who last season was 1 place away. He was the next person to go to state, and so he was obviously, that was his goal, was to make it to state, and he finished 23rd. And this year it just happened to be only the top 16 runners made it. So there was fewer from a team that were, the way it works, there was fewer from a team that were knocked out, so to say, in the top 10 after those 4 qualifying teams. So there wasn't a lot of open spots, and so he finished 23rd. He ran one of his best times. He ran a 16:20 and really competed well. Really had a great race, and just it just didn't have quite enough there. Just to make it. He was disappointed, but again, with like Sydney, no regrets. He gave it all he had and really competed well. Behind him was a sophomore, Jose Mejia, who has just really kind of busted through some walls this year. He told me at one point in the season, Coach, I think I'm tapped out. And ever since that day, he has only gotten faster. And so he's kind of had some mental barriers to break through, and now he can see that he does have a lot of potential, and up there, has the capability to be up there and that competing to go to state in the next couple of years. And then behind him was a junior who's really come a long way, Camden Fuller. He was done powerlifting, and he just really decided to commit to cross country, and has just been a huge asset for us, and always just runs hard. He's really a leader in the way that he works and the way that he just competes. And so he ran a great race again, almost 2 minutes faster than he was the first time we ran there, and just really competed hard. And so obviously those two guys will be back next year. And then we had a couple of sophomores after that with with Alex Flecker. He was fifth on our team, and he ran a solid race. And Evan Patrick was actually, excuse me, I'm sorry, I forgot Price Griggs. He was fourth. He actually ran the JV for us, and ran an outstanding JV race at district, and just basically forced his way in there, because I couldn't keep him off from running. He ended up finishing fourth for us, which is scoring, and so he really has stepped up, battled through some little injuries to really run a great race and really step up for us when it mattered. And then follow him was Evan Patrick, a sophomore, who he's really improved as well. He was a little disappointed in his race. He thinks he got tripped up a little, and anyway, but he's really come a long way, and he really has bought into the program. And then him right neck and neck was another sophomore, Alex Flecker, who's just really, those guys were mid JV guys for us, and just really stepped up this year to compete and be huge assets for the varsity team. Finally, sixth, we had actually sixth was Alex, and then seventh we had a senior, Chase Berry, who he's just he's always been just kind of the humor for our team. Just has a great attitude and just always full of positive energy. And he went out there and really gave a good effort for his last race. Not quite his season best, but he was really close to it. And so he's a big into theater as well, so he's kind of split some time doing that, but he's really been committed and focused, and so he's been so we were glad that he was able to compete and really do well there that last race.
Yeah. Oh, so with just a few exceptions, a few seniors, the bulk of the team will be back for you next year.
Yeah. We have obviously been led the last couple of years by Sydney and Christian. Those guys, those two are they'll be hard to they'll be missed for sure. But people have seen, hey, this is what it takes to compete at the top of our competitive region, and this is what it takes. And if you're not ready to do that, then maybe this isn't for you. But 99% of our kids have really bought in and really have seen the way they do it, and they believe they can do it as well. So they will definitely be missed. And those others, the Chase Berry, the Ashley Noe, the Ricardo Torres, all those people, they've done things the right way since they've been here. That's my first group. I started 4 years ago, and so they've been with me all 4 years. So it's going to be a little weird to lose them at the end of the year, and so they've had to bear with some of my younger coaching days, and so hopefully we've all made strides together and improved together. But it really has been a great year. It's just a great group of kids, and I think things are just moving up from here.
That's Channel 18 TV News. I'm Don Julian. Thank you for joining me, and so long, everybody.